Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and, with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome to Neon Twilight with Solaris BleRaven. It's going to be a fun evening, and most of you know Solaris. It's kind of one of those things, she needs no introduction, but I will point out that she has two other shows, both of them on Revolution Radio, and she has an amazing following, and she's been doing her show for a very long time. She is absolutely a pro in the field. She's written books that are absolutely phenomenal. Please check her out on Amazon.com. Many of them I have stolen much material from, so you know it's got to be phenomenal. And she has been a friend for a very long time, so we get together with her show here, Neon Twilight, and we kind of bounce things back and forth and kind of share philosophies. It's really a lot of fun because, to be honest with you, I find it hard to find people who speak my language, and she certainly does. So for me, this is a treat every month to be able to talk to her at the end of the month and kind of go over what's happening in the world, solve the world's problems, and then go off into eternity. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Solaris.
Well, thank you, Barbara. It's always a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the kind words. And likewise, it's wonderful to be here every month. It's something I look forward to. Really
I do too. It's there's no pressure,
right.
but it's kind of when I mention speaking the same language, it's true. You can't. Mm-hmm. I cannot. I interview a lot of people who speak the same language, and there are people that are amazing to interview. But when it comes to just sitting down and solving the problems of the world, there aren't many people that I can, reach out to and say, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? So I'm just very delighted that, you're here.
Well, thank you. I agree. I can talk to you too as a sounding board, and that's what I love about you as well. So, yeah, kind of like a kindred spirit star tribe of some kind. So,
I kind of would go along with a star tribe. I think that's, there every now and then I'll interview somebody that just, it's like, oh my goodness, they know what they're talking about. They all know what they're talking about to a certain degree, but every now and then you kind of want to go deeper. And every now and then I have an author that knows their material really, really well, but to go deeper into it, they're resistant, and it's almost as though, no, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I never understood that. You think they'd want to expand on their work, but a lot of people don't. I run into that same problem when I interview people.
Well, I think it's it's almost like they're in a bubble, and they know their material well. They're experts in the field. It's really quite amazing. And when you get one of them, you kind of want to say, what's the next step? Or can you go deeper into that? And every now and then somebody will say no, and then it's like, oh, okay. And now and then I'll say,
they want you to read the book.
Well,
maybe.
yeah, well, I read the books, and even so, I want to say, well, I'll say it. They feel limited. They have written a book that is brilliant, but the material is only to a certain level, and you want to know, can they take it further? Can they go beyond it? I mean, you certainly do with all of the books you've written. You go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's just, I would assume everybody's like that, but apparently not.
I would think so. I think it's a drive. You want to keep exploring. I think we're kind of like astronauts anyway. Beings like us, we just love to explore.
Yeah, where do you take it from there? It's kind of like,
just keep going.
I would hope. I would hope. I know that with your books, you do take it deeper and deeper and deeper. And some of the earlier books were more of a getting to understand spirituality and getting into yourself and utilizing tools to get into the deeper realms inside of yourself. And then 4 or 5 books later, you're cosmically out there. So it's really phenomenal.
It's a journey, no doubt about it. I'm very humbled about it. Well, it's really nice to be able to do that and keep leaping. You do the same thing.
Well, to a degree.
I never talk about creativity. And I don't want to get stagnant. And I think that's the thing, is I'm always energized. I'm always wanting to keep writing. Whatever I'm doing, I'm usually pretty much constantly in motion in some weird way. So I think that's part of the writing aspect. But we were going to get into that tonight, and so far as creativity goes, and then this is your topic, so I'm excited to discuss how you want to talk about this.
Well, everything is crazy in the world these days. I mean, everything is going to hell in a handbasket. And I think that what people don't understand is that they don't have to get swept up in it. They don't have to react to it. That they have tools within themselves that can get them through these times, no matter what happens. And I think seeing people in the grocery store, seeing people out, whatever, everybody is, there's an element of frustration and anger. And you see it in these riots that we're having. And when I was looking at pictures of them, I realized that they were there theoretically for a cause, but most of the people that were interviewed and stuff like that on TV didn't know what the cause was. They were just angry. And so I'm thinking that the times are so bad that people are angry and frustrated, and they will get swept into a mob without even thinking, because it's a place for them to vent all of the anger they have inside of themselves. And it has nothing to do with, I mean, yes, there are fanatics out there. There's no doubt about it. But the size of these mobs are huge. And what is happening is people are getting swept up in them without even realizing what it is they're destroying things for.
Right.
And
they're in a frenzy. I agree.
Yeah. Kind of like the berserkers. And they are becoming, well, look at, now I go way back to San Francisco when they had, I don't know if it was San Francisco or Los Angeles now, but when they had the riots and they burned their own homes down. Now, what intelligent person is going to set fire to their homes? And this goes back 10, 15, 20 years. But they burned down whole blocks. And I think they even burned down a new community center that hadn't even opened yet. But who in their right mind would do that? I mean, if you're going to burn something down, I'll burn somebody else's down. I'm not going to burn down mine. Right.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like this, there's no rationale there. whatsoever. It's almost a madness, a temporary insanity kind of thing.
Well, like I said,
I don't even know if
like,
they're really there consciously. Like their spirit, where is it? Did it evacuate? Or is it just kind of an entity collective that's just feeding off of the anger and the rage like you were describing?
well, when you look at, some, and I don't even want to, well, yeah, I will. So these are young kids, a lot of them, who don't even know what they're rioting about. I mean, some of these kids that I saw interviewed didn't know a thing about history, didn't know what they were screaming and yelling against. They were shouting things they didn't even understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that what I'm seeing is what I just did the July prediction and put it up on the website and stuff, and it's catching. And what happens is you get caught up in it, and it feeds off the anger you have inside of you, and you just it's in some way you excuse yourself for being destructive, which I don't understand, but that's what they do. This is in the name of whatever. Tearing
they try
down,
to justify it.
Yeah, and there's when they were pulling down the statues of Southern generals and things like that. I mean, that's part of history. These were people who, for the most part, a lot of them went to West Point. They were soldiers. I mean, this is part of our history. You don't destroy your history. And if you're not proud of it, then be proud of where you are now instead of deciding to destroy something. So anyhow, I got the feeling here that there's so much frustration, there's so much anger, and certainly if you go to the grocery store, you have anger in you for sure. Not gonna throw eggs at anybody anytime soon. But you
maybe
sit
tomato.
back.
I was kidding.
Well, yeah, tomatoes would work better, I think. So it's like, okay, so how do people with limited to no money actually I'm down to there's no extra money here anyplace. I'm making it and I'm getting by, but there's not a stockpile in the closet or under the bed for sure. So what do people do? I know what I do. I sink into my creativity. The minute that I am doing a creative project of any sort, I lose whatever reality is, and I'm in the joy of creation, and there's an excitement, and it's palpable, and it calms me down, and whether it's writing or needlepoint or crochet or knitting or gardening and I think what most people don't understand when you say creativity, they expect you to be able to paint the Sistine Chapel or, but no, you don't have to be good at it. You just have to get joy from it. And
right.
I think the best description of that is I love singing. I just love it.
Oh, nice.
I'm tone deaf. And when I was in high school, well, yeah, it does if you want someone to listen. When I was in high school, I joined the choir at the church. Now, church choirs have to take anybody. And so, I joined. And my mother at one point said to the choir director, she can't sing. And he said, oh, yeah, we know. But we just stick her close to the loudest singer and they drown her out. But there was something in being a part of that chorus that was so enriching and invigorating and joyful and magical. And it was just the 3 years that I was in the choir. I had the greatest time in the world. And no, I couldn't sing, but I blasted out like everybody else did, but nobody could hear me. And when I was in college, I went through Rush, and there were two sororities that I really was interested in, and one was it was a black sorority, and they sang amazingly, and I hung in there till the very, very end. And when they rejected me, I said, "Why did you reject me?" And the girl said, "Oh, we loved you. We think you're fabulous." And I said, and she said, "We just couldn't invite you in." And I said, "Is this discrimination?" I said, "I realize that I'm a different color, but hey." And she said, "Your color has nothing to do with it." And I said, "Well, that's hard to believe since you're telling me I can't come in. And that's the only thing I can see." And she said, "Barbara, you can't sing." And I said, "All right, I'll buy that one." But it was just,
some fun though.
Oh yeah, I just, there's something being in a group of people and having music lift your spirit. It's amazing, and I think I use it as an example of you don't have to be good. I've been there, not good, and gotten joy from it. So, it's just,
awesome.
I mean, how do you, when you get into a funk, how do you get out of it?
Well, I usually do something to redirect the energy. It depends. If I'm frustrated at training, working out always helps. Meditation, in the old days, I do meditation. Now I think I just work out or I do my writing. I get creative. I do something that I enjoy. There's so many different outlets. If you want something else, I play with my animals sometimes. It just depends on what I need at the moment or what they need. But I look at the bigger scenery. And I do like the collective aspect of working and in a group. I remember when I was younger, I used to play in a band, and I was the flute player. It was like really, really good at the time. And we had fun. I mean, it was beautiful because everybody's dialed into that frequency, working together as a collective, making beautiful music. So, yeah, I can understand why you enjoyed that so much with the singing. And, yeah, I never went to rehearsal. I was kind of didn't like to go to rehearsal for that. So I'd show up when I wanted to, maybe once or twice a week, but I never missed a beat with the music. I'd always practice at home. And they were always getting annoyed with that because I would never go to band rehearsal. But I'd always show up and I could play everything perfectly because I practiced so much by myself. It was so funny. Yeah, but I had fun. And so I guess writing, depending on what your outlet is, like you were saying, there are a lot of wonderful people out there who love to study the stars, astronomy. You like to ride your bike. So many different things you can do. And I think that's what it's boiling down to. Instead of getting angry, I mean, obviously the world's falling apart on so many levels, but do something that's fun, that's going to make you feel better afterwards. I know a lot of people like to cook. They like cooking as therapy. I'm not a fan of cooking. I like it, but it's not me. But I know a lot of people do, and it helps them calm down. So
yeah, I think that it's the most important part is to be doing something that gives you joy. And there's so many people that will say, "Well, I'm not talented, and I'm not gifted, and I don't know what to do." And the reality is, it's not true. So it's a matter of if you want to be defeatist, okay, that's your right, but don't stand around and say you don't have access to an energy that everybody has inside of them. Some people are some people are very, very lucky. I mean, entertainers and musicians especially have a talent and a skill that everybody can see. But, I write.
It's repetition, though, just like, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is repetition. It's something that you do that is fun for you to do. And the other one of the forms of being creative is, meditation comes in here. Anybody can do meditation, and there are lots of different ways of doing meditation. But in these times, it's really important to get more in touch with yourself than you've ever been in touch with yourself before. because otherwise you
Mm-hmm.
can get swept away in some of these horrendous things that are going on in the world today.
Right.
And I think that's what gets to me when I see these huge groups of thousands of people ranting
Mm-hmm.
and raving and destroying in many cases. And it's like there has to be another way. There has to be another way of dealing with humanity, of dealing with how we react to what's going on in our reality. And you know, I don't know if where you live there are, you know, the same things going on that they are here in Nashville. I mean, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen here. I know there are a lot of people who have come through the border illegally that are in tent cities all over the place, and they're
Mm-hmm.
from every country. They're from every country in the world. If they had just been from places where they were possibly afraid for their lives, I would be okay. But they're from China. They're from India. They're from all over the world. I don't even know how they get here. I mean,
agreed. By design. My opinion.
So, what is the purpose of all this? And
Well, I think it's sabotage. You know, I said it before without even prejudice. I'm just making an observation. But we couldn't sustain that. We could never sustain that. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people know this. The FBI knows it, that they really are looking for more like the terrorists. Because in my opinion, I think that's what we're looking at down the road. So, yeah, there's an uneasiness and the frustration that people are feeling and the rage and the anger of feeling betrayed by their own country because they've left the borders wide open and put them in a vulnerable position. I mean, I think that's really what's going on. And even if they don't really say it, I think subconsciously it's impacting them. They're no longer safe. They don't feel safe. And I can understand that. You have to be very, very cautious about everything now and really pay attention.
Well, I did an interview with somebody in Australia couple days ago, and you know, I was saying to him that you know, we just have so many people coming in, we can't sustain them. And he said, well, it's the same here. Now, I thought Australia was a great big country with so much land, it was unbelievable. But he said that they were to the point where they didn't know what to do with the people that were coming in. Now, it is a big country, but it's also not exactly the kind of country where crops grow well and stuff like that. So there's a lot of desert and you know, it's a hard life in many places. So, you know, it's kind of like I didn't realize that Australia was getting it too. I know Europe is getting it, but
yeah, it is. It's yeah, they are.
So, you know, where do you put? First of all, where do you put all these people? I mean, South America has, you know, just jungle. Why don't you, and to cut down the jungle wrecks our atmosphere by taking all of the trees down. So, you know, where do you go?
Right.
What do you do?
And all these people, you look at it, they're not all war-torn countries they're coming from. So that's a facade. I do see it as sabotage, and I think they're strategically positioning a lot of people here. I don't know if I mentioned this on your this show in particular, but I've mentioned it before just as a kind of remote assessment that, you know, you're getting all these people in one area, and a lot of bad things can happen simultaneously. We're looking at a global warfare program right now where all of these major big players are literally ready to start turning their keys, so to speak. And with that comes annihilation in areas being eradicated. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but isn't it interesting how they're putting everybody, a large population in these areas they want to destroy through warfare or other means?
Well, look, I mean, the big cities like New York and, gosh, Los Angeles and you know, they're just in San Francisco. I don't understand why people are swarming to come into this country when they're sleeping on the floors of police stations because there's no place for them. Did they not know? Did they think that they were all going to be put up in hotels, given money, and allowed to sit back and live the life fantastic? I mean, why are they here?
Well, that's my point. You know, everybody's worried about the alien invasion of extraterrestrials, but I think that this is the real invasion. takes on the form of something of this nature. Hi, Mark Eddy, by the way. He just sent me a text, and I think you know what he probably said. I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a wonderful supporter, and he does great shows as well. So, you know, it's he's been an amazing addition to Nightlight Radio for sure. Very glad he's here. But you know, when it comes to what's happening to this country and the people in it, my heart breaks when people are being raped and murdered, and you know, it's like they come into this country with a set of morals that is non-existent, and then they think they can go around and steal and murder and rape and nothing will happen to them. I just
right. Yeah, there's no re-education. That's the problem, is they're coming in with their old patterns, their old behavioral patterns, their bad programming, and nobody's there to put the brakes on it. As a matter of fact, it's, in my opinion, it's being encouraged because there's no accountability here. Because they never stopped them to begin with and did an assessment on these people before they showed up. Had they looked at their backgrounds, had they really dialed into these people, just like psychological evaluation on them or anything else, they wouldn't have let them in. But they did, and now people are dying. You know, yeah, it's no good.
No, it's a little frightening, and I don't know if a change in administration will do anything. If we change administrations, and I don't know that will happen either. But it does feel as though we have become a third world country.
And we certainly have. I agree with you.
Well, and you know, I think
it was by design.
What happened to the land of the free and the home of the brave? It's not anymore. They were talking here seriously talking about first reinstating the draft and then also drafting women.
Right.
And now that's actually not all bad, because I know Israel
No, I think a lot
of
women want it. Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. And I don't think they put them on the front lines unless they really can or have a capability of that kind of combat. But women are quite capable of many, many things in the military. So I don't really see that as a big deal. I just see this whole scenery as we could have avoided it. Let's put it that way. We didn't have to go this route, and they went this route, which I find is very destructive, and it's not going to get any better. It's no rainbow, at the end of this one.
Well, I still get the feeling that martial law is going to be declared towards the end of the year.
Right. I agree with you. I agree.
And I don't know why. It's funny. You get a feeling for something, and then you try to guess what causes it, and I have no idea what will cause it. But I do feel martial law is going to be declared in this country. And
that would keep him in office. Yeah, that would keep Biden in office at least temporarily, to freeze the election or, postpone it as best they can. I think they were looking for an excuse to do that. I know that Putin, from what I understand, don't quote me on it, but someone ran this by me, apparently said something like the United States is going to go through that type of thing where they're going to postpone the election because of bird flu or because of some kind of a bioweapon. I think it's more about just having a war. We're right now in the midst of a battle that literally, like I said, we're just almost there with the way we're positioned across the world with our fleet.
Well, the sad thing is, where I see a breakout, where I see something happening, is Taiwan and the Philippines.
Interesting.
Because that's nowhere else in the world would we have to respond. We don't have to respond to Israel. We don't have to respond to the Ukraine. Taiwan, and not Taiwan. Taiwan used to belong to China, and they say it still does. And I'm up the, it may still, it's going to be reabsorbed. But the Philippines are not. The Philippines are U.S. protectorate. So if they take Taiwan, we're going to probably send tons of stuff in that direction, and then, everybody's saying we have two oceans that are supporting our protecting us, but at this point in time, with the military armaments that they have, we're not protected by the ocean. Everybody's got missiles that can cross the ocean. That's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah, no, they're right in our back door at this point. I think we had, I don't know, it's been a while. It's been about a month, right? We discussed, Russian subs off the coast, and that's nothing unusual. However, I find that things are just a little bit more magnified with Russian submarines and Russian.
Well, their fleet was in Cuba for military whatever. It took me back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was a lot of time. That was 60 years ago or something. But it just maybe more than 60 years. But yeah, I mean, we're being tested, and I don't know. I mean, I can't even make a guess on what's going to happen with the election, because the last election, in my mind, was tampered with. So I don't know if they're going to try to do it again. I can't.
Oh, sure.
Probably.
Yeah. Did you see the debate?
Oh, yes, I did.
I thought it was entertaining.
It was. And I've, fortunately or unfortunately, I've been around a lot of people with dementia. And so I'm very familiar with the signs and everything. And I am not a medical doctor, but I can say that President Biden has all of the signifiers of someone who is in incredible decline mentally, and
agreed.
And it just you see the way he walks, you see the way he. I mean, I feel sorry for him. I truly do, and I do think that his wife is guilty of elder abuse, because I do think when that man ran the first time, he said it would only be a transition time and he would only serve one term. That's what he said 3 years ago. And to decide to do a second term when he is in this condition, I feel sorry for the man. I think he's being manipulated. I think he is being controlled. And I think his wife is guilty of elder abuse. I truly do.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of her at all.
Well, I just,
she knows. You're right. She knows. She knows what's going on with him. But I think you're right also. Oh, go ahead.
Well, she's not she has a doctorate. She's not a medical doctor.
Exactly.
So, I mean, call her Dr. Jill all you want, but I think she has an educational doctorate. It has nothing to do with
That's even questionable at this point. That's a generic formula. Everybody can get a master's and a PhD and this, that, and the other. It doesn't mean they're genius.
Well, that's true.
No, I digress. But
I think she's in for the power. I think it's her. I
Agreed.
don't think it's
him. I think so, too.
I think that he would, gracefully have not gone for a second term had he not been pushed. And it's I feel sorry for him. I mean, you see the slack mouth, you see the stare, you see him freeze.
Oh, that with the mouth hanging open, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those pictures they have of him, my goodness, I don't know if they made memes out of them already, but yeah, he's gone. There's nobody home.
Well, that and the fact that he goes to bed early and he gets up late and he works maybe 4 hours a day. And what happens if there's a crisis?
Well, he's created one now.
Well,
look at our borders. This is my point. Go ahead.
I don't understand that. I really don't. He kept saying
I don't either. It's sabotage.
He said he didn't have the power to change things, and yet he had the power to stop things.
Well, what's interesting, maybe he doesn't have the power because someone else is making all the shots and controlling it. I don't think it's Harris. I think she wants that position. I think she's chomping at the bit to be president. But I find that there's something else behind the scenes that's controlling it and calling the shots right now. Whether it's correlation to Obama or DOJ the military-industrial complex, or somebody else who's literally controlling this arena right now. And I find that if he does try to get in or postpone the election, something will happen where he'll step down. I don't think Harris can make it to president. It will be somebody else that'll slip in as a proxy.
Yeah, they're talking about that, and then somebody else comes up with the fact that legally, the people that are supporting Joe, they're his votes. If he pulls out, they're gone.
Well, technically that should be. Yeah, I agree with that.
So it disenfranchises all of those people that have pledged to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I
know who Ramaswamy is, right? I like Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
I really like him.
Yeah.
I think he has a future.
There are a lot of them that I like on that on the Republican side, and we haven't had the opportunity to see any on the Democratic side, really, and
there's nobody.
So it's kind of, but there have to be. See, the thing is that there have to be good people there. We just haven't seen them there, and my grandfather, long time ago, was a state senator, and it was people worked across the aisle, people supported each other, people weren't grabbing for power, people were trying to get this country to be successful. And it doesn't feel to me, and this is only my personal opinion, a long time ago I fired I fired the Senate and I fired the Congress. I put it on Facebook. Nobody paid attention. I thought I'd get all sorts of hate mail. Nothing. I just said, you're all fired. Pack your bags and go home. You forgot who pays your paycheck. You forgot why you're there. You're not working for the populace anymore. You're working for your own personal advancement, and that just doesn't work. So it's like Sylvia Browne a long time ago forecast, and it's in one of her books, and Jeannie read it to me, and I forget which book it's in, but she said that after 2020 that the government would be disbanded and would be run more by a committee rather than a single person in charge.
That's highly possible.
I'm not sure that'll work, because if you have to make, a snap decision, you can't call a committee together and take a vote. You have to have someone who is in charge, there has to be somebody in charge. But, it used to be, look, George Washington served, I think, 2 terms, and then he said, he didn't want to be king. They offered him to be a king. And there were term limitations, and I think there should be term limitations. And for some reason, both the Congress and the Senate voted to not have term limitations. Same time, they probably voted themselves a big raise, but there's something just very, very wrong here. And
yes, I agree.
You kind of look and you think, okay, and what was it Benjamin Franklin said? He said, well, they have a republic if they can keep it. And it doesn't feel like we're doing a very good job.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And if you look at this whole scenery, you know how the line of succession goes for the president, right? So think about, there's a huge amount of, there's a lot of people that could step up if something happens. It goes on and on and on, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's president, vice president, speaker of the House. I'm not sure where it goes after that.
Well, it goes all the way down to Blinken and Yellen, Treasury. This is what I mean. These guys are all sitting there, and they're all a hive collective in a sense of being able to run everything behind the scenes while he can't. Okay? And honestly, I'm looking at this thinking that's probably exactly what's going on. That he's just, like I said, he's just a fixture, like he's always been. And then they have all these other dudes doing whatever they need to do behind the scenery. So very strange, I'll tell you. It's all such a strange scenario. But I see this country going down. I do. They've already set it in motion. I don't see how it can recover at this point. I really don't.
Well, let's if you look at if Trump gets in and has a good vice president, he'd do 4 years, and theoretically his vice president would do 8 years. So that gives us 12 years of possibly pulling it back from the brink. After that, I don't know. Because if the Republicans do win, and I don't know that they will, it's up in the air. If they win, they will keep it only as long as they are worthy of it, I guess. And the Democrats, once they come back, will try to do this all over again. And
that's what I mean. It's this tug of war. It's like a seesaw pattern. It doesn't change. It goes up and down, and we're losing progress at the whole time. Even though there appears to have all these advancements with the breakaway technologies that we've had for a very long time, you're still looking at nobody's going to see this because it's putting everybody in reverse. It's leveling the ground, leveling the playing field to such a degree. America is going to be way down versus being a breakaway civilization or the potential for one, even though the super wealthy will definitely have access to the tech and everything they need to do to keep themselves afloat, so to speak. But this is what I mean. This has been a huge distraction and sideshow, as you know, to pull everybody's energy into this whole bubble of obfuscation and everything else they want to pull in there. And at the same time, we could have been working on so many more advanced projects as a collective, right? Taking a huge leap beyond this configuration, really. That's my method. But honestly, these people, I just don't get them, like why they have to do all this. And I don't want to be part of that, So it's really frustrating, and I can see why people get angry about it. I certainly get annoyed.
Well, I look at it, and then I think that the weather is being used as a weapon against us. I feel that the what's happening here with the weather, we've had over a week of over 100 degrees, and it's only July.
Goodness.
It's only June. It will be July soon, but and so I can't keep flowers in my garden. They're being burnt to a crisp. And it's
too
like,
bad.
Oh yeah, and I'm a gardener, so and I've just about quit. And when you think of what it's going to be doing to the crops that theoretically are planted and supposedly starting to grow, I'm feeling that there are going to be food shortages because the farmers aren't going to be able to supply the food that they normally supply. And look at the chickens. There's a chicken virus or something that they're killing. They're killing thousands anyhow of chickens, and so there will be a shortage of that. And it's just it looks like the earth is saying screw you, and just I don't know what's happening in other places where there are farms and stuff, but it bird flu. Thank you, Mark. So it's sort of like what do we do? Our food supply is going downhill. The weather is absolutely starting to really be vicious. And a few months ago we had such horrendous thunderstorms that because I'm in Tennessee, I have become a fanatic with looking at weather maps every day. Storms, thunder, lightning, the whole thing. I love a good thunder and lightning storm. However, if it gets so bad that it whips out tornadoes, that I'm not thrilled with that. But the storms, I mean, at one point there were 3 or 4 storms surrounding Nashville, and it was almost like Nashville was, the bullseye, and they all hit, and it was incredible. Anyway, they were great storms. Don't get me wrong, but and we're seeing it all over the world. Hurricane season is supposed to be the worst ever. It's supposed to be the the hottest summer ever on record. And when it comes to, the tsunamis and things like that, I did the predictions for July, and one of them was that there are going to be icebergs floating into the lanes that ships travel, so that they're going to be confronting icebergs in places that they've never seen them before. So that's going on, and Tennessee has had a lot of minor earthquakes, more so than ever before, and I'm expecting a major one anytime soon. So I think nature is being triggered to throw storms out here that are going to be destructive as hell.
It seems like it. Well, and also between that and also the manufacturer stuff that's been going on with beyond geoengineering, I think it's both. I think it's a perfect storm for a lot of weird stuff, if you ask me. And you're talking about those hurricanes. Isn't there the one now that they have going on that's really dangerous, Hurricane Beryl? So that one's out there. That's supposed to be really gnarly. And the one I think it's over there near Cuba, kind of, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's a big one. Look up Hurricane Beryl. So that's going on right now, if I'm not mistaken. So, the Caribbean islands. So all this is going on. But isn't that interesting? Once again, there's the Caribbean popping up again. Or Caribbean, however you want to say it.
The one in the tsunami that hit Haiti, I know. Now, I don't know for sure. I can't give you exact anything, but I can tell you that my feeling when that happened was, holy mackerel, that was a man-made tsunami. It was not a natural one. And I will stick my reputation on it. As a weather person, it just was. I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't believe they saw a cause for it. All they saw was a tsunami that hit Haiti, and I think we're going to get a lot more of that. And I'm waiting. I mean, what are your big storms? Are they normally just?
Here?
Yeah.
In the state? Normally we don't get tornadoes very much. I would say hailstorms have been really bad when that happens, but the winter storms are the worst here. And that's what I've noticed the most, is that we don't really have a season anymore. We don't have spring, we don't have fall. It's usually just it goes right from winter, maybe like a little bit of a summer, and then it goes back into a winter again. So I've seen dramatic temperature changes and cooler temperatures in association with something going on, and that would be certainly global warming. We had this, I remember that storm we had. It was 5 feet of snow outside. So, I mean, after that, I didn't even want to live here anymore. So I got stuck in my driveway for a week and couldn't get out. I had to shovel, and I think I eventually had somebody get me because they were all backed up trying to get me. So, but that's, pretty much that's what I see here. Although I have talked to my insurance agent, and I have a great record for driving, and everything's going up because of the hail damage to cars.
Wow.
That they had such a bad weather system with hail that they had to raise everything across the board, and I was shocked. So that's going on. I don't know what's going on in everybody else's state, but that's the information they gave me. It's like, even if your car isn't impacted, you go, they just up the ante, It's really weird.
Yeah, my son had a number of years ago, there was a hailstorm here, and his house was new. They bought it new, and it had a copper roof, and the hail destroyed the roof. He had to replace his roof.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
And now, when I was growing up, we lived in Minnesota for a while. Now I know what a blizzard is, and when they forecast a blizzard for here, I was in Nashville. I was ready. Well, their blizzard was an inch of snow.
Oh, how funny! Oh, I would love that. That'd be outside.
It was like they closed schools for 2 days. I called my son. I said, "Hey, when do the plows come out?" And he said, "Oh no, we don't have plows." And I said, "Well, what do you do?" He said, "We wait for it to melt."
Oh, good grief! An inch of snow isn't anything. How funny.
No, yeah, I can remember our house. We had a ranch style house, and I remember every winter, half of it was all covered with snow. We were able to walk on the roof easily, and you know, it just depended on which way the wind was blowing when the major storm happened. But you know, weather is I don't know. I'm waiting. I know the storms here are usually tornadoes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm not thrilled with it, but, you know, I've only been sent into my safe room a couple times since I've been here. So it's not a bad thing. And
it's not all year round either, right? So you have the tornadoes. There's a certain time of year you have those.
No, we're having them all, you know, any time of the year.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely it's weather. It's what would have been rain or would have been snow, whatever was appropriate. It's that kind of condensation that whips it up. But you know, in the Northeast, it was nor'easters were the really big storms. Those were the storms on the coast, anyhow, that really could you know, knock the hell out of you. But I think we're seeing more and more major storms. We're seeing all sorts of things happen. It's almost like, you know, it's not just one thing. It's everything that seems to be falling apart.
I agree. It's simultaneous. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's what's so strange. And I noticed the frequency shifts, energetically speaking, years ago. I think it was pretty much when the newest administration took over. I noticed the change in the field. And then all of a sudden, the chaos and the energy started getting more erratic. And, of course, it's kind of like a psychic regurgitation of the collective and also the intent behind what they're doing to this landmass. So I think everything is a combination. Like I said, I think it is a perfect storm, what they're building up right now. And it's not in their favor. I don't think it's going to be a win-win scenario for these people who have created this or orchestrated part of it. It's not a winner's thing, you know, a winner's circle. So it's kind of foolish of them in the long run.
Well, what gets me is that any country would want our land mass for farming because, you know, so that they're not going to drop something on us that's going to destroy the land. But you know, we had a dust bowl here within the last, I don't know, 100 or so years. So even the land will rebel against us. So I don't know. I just think that, of course, we're only here for short specks of time. So, you know, over the thousands of years the planet, millions of years the planet has been here, it's been through a lot of changes. But if you look astrologically at the different ages that we're in, we're at the bottom of an age, and that means that there is a form of mass destruction somewhere along the line coming at us. I don't know what kind it is. I don't know what it is, and I don't know when it's going to hit. It makes me a very bad forecaster of predictions and stuff like that. But I do know that it is, if we look at the cycles, if we look at the ages that we have been through with, you know, golden age, silver age, copper age, whatever, we're in the bottom age at this point in time. Certainly not enlightened, certainly with all the wars going on, not exactly ripe for humanity and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't know. We're sinking fast, and there's no place you can look where it would be, oh, this would be a good place to be, unless, of course, you're in a bunker someplace and you own the land.
And I still don't think the bunkers are the best, honestly. Even though everybody's choosing that, I find that off-planet is the best solution. Living off-planet or close proximity to a station off-planet would be the best solution for survival. And, of course, you know, we've talked about Antarctica and this, that, and the other. I think there are other avenues, although nobody will ever hear about it because a lot of that's under classification to some degree. You know, for example, what's going on with CERN lately? Nobody's talking about that since they powered that up, and all of a sudden we're getting more enhanced weather patterns, right? So I'm not saying there's a correlation. I'm just saying it's interesting. And I always look at the patterns insofar as what can this do indirectly or even on a parallel scale. So that's one thing to look at. It comes down to what's happening here. But insofar as what they can deploy for weapon systems, I think anything goes. I don't think they would hesitate twice about nuking this place at this point, in my opinion. And there are some that I think that aren't as destructive as others. So, well, you know, it's not very pretty. It's not a very happy thought. And I just think it's all crazy, and I think they'll go at nothing to have their power, but they're not going to have any power. They're going to be king of a sandbox. You know,
what's the point of winning a war or whatever if you've destroyed half the planet?
Well, they're ego-oriented, but they don't think that. They think it's terraforming. See, the thing is, it really is terraforming. Look at what they can do with the nukes insofar as how they detonate. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to wipe everything out. They're going to maybe take out a huge population, and what's left may be an opportunity to terraform. And you were describing some stuff to me prior to the show, which I'm not going to get into because unless you want to talk about it. But think about, you know, advanced technologies or structures, this, that, and the other, preparations for such a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you survive something like that? We were talking about bunkers, but there are other ways. So, yeah, I think anything goes at this point, and it would be interesting for a forecast at some point for you, but that's your thing. I think it's going to show itself soon. We're already in July. Also, Independence Day is coming up. We have the 4th right around the corner, kind of auspicious in a weird way. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about, extraterrestrials invading us. We have an alien invasion already.
Well, that's their false flag alien invasion, which is really the border being open. But we are the off-worlders. Like I said, we're the descendants of the visitors. We just want to go home. So when you think about it, flip that switch. Flip it into reversal mode. It's not that, they're coming here. We're going there, in my opinion. So that's another aspect of it. Leaving.
That's
what I was saying years ago.
Well, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I totally believe we came through a portal, a dimension opening of some sort. I don't think we came in spaceships. I think that it was interdimensional. But I wouldn't mind going back.
Definitely go to a different space-time. Yes, absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, and it's in my other books that I put out, we're in the wrong space-time configuration. We're not even supposed to be here. Timelines are off. They're imploded. And it's interesting because we just had the anniversary date of the Philadelphia experiment, which was, you can say whatever you want about it, but I think it was last year, but it seems like everything started to come full circle. The disclosure movement connected to UFOs and information was kind of snuffed out. We have redirects when it comes to classified technology. They are understanding very clearly about the Neuralink and how that works with synthetic telepathy, although they're using a primordial version of it, and that's where I've been. We've talked about that. But my take is that they're taking all these facets of advanced technology and they're snuffing them out or hiding them or giving them to certain departments, and you're not hearing anything about it. As far as you'll never see this stuff again unless they want to show it. This stuff is getting buried, and it's getting buried deep. And I've been observing this now for a very long time, the past several years. It's with this administration for sure. It wasn't with Trump. It's with these guys. So I thought that was interesting. And, of course, who's in charge? Harris is. She's in charge of the Artificial Intelligence Department. Or so they say.
Oh, jeez.
I just do my own remote analysis. But I'm telling you, I just put it all together. You're a detective, too, and I know you come from that kind of energy. So it is what it is, but it's interesting to see this, once again, a sideshow. Think about it. It's like nobody knows about technology. How can anybody really build a computer by themselves without having training or a cell phone or understand how satellite systems work? Does anybody understand the components of this? This is a lost technology in a sense of people not understanding how the mechanics work. And I think that's where we're heading. In a sense, I think that knowledge is getting hidden again. Knowledge is power. And we all know how they censor.
Well, yeah, and look at our educational system. Anybody who, if my son was, of school age, he would be homeschooled for sure. The school systems, what they're putting out there for the kids is disaster. And
that's another thing. They were remotely trained with the shutdown. And think about something even more severe like a war. How are they going to be educated then?
They're going to be cannon fodder, is what they're going to be.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, unless they're living off planet or a secure location to be trained. Nobody thinks about this stuff. Well, maybe they do behind the scenes. Maybe there's a weird fanatic, unit out there. I don't know.
Well,
it's just interesting.
Well, it is, and when you look at exactly like what you said, where our technology is going. First of all, we're not educating our children appropriately, and don't blame it on the pandemic. I'm sorry, schools stank before the pandemic happened. So it just they're going into so many social whatevers that they're not getting the fundamentals of learning. They're not being taught to think. And
exactly.
I think that's what really bothers me. It's a matter of they can repeat, they can memorize, but they can't think. And
the mimic program, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you think of Plato and Socrates and all of those guys, they were thinkers. They literally were thinkers. And
that's what I love about them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, if you go back, way back, they had places that you interpreted dreams. You stretched into your dreams will give you answers if you know how to interpret them, and it's true. And those philosophies have been snuffed out by science, and so it's easier to give you a pill than to teach you to go into yourself and to find out what's wrong with not only the chemistry but the emotionality, and help you to help to fix problems that way with your diet, with all sorts of other things, rather than giving you a pill. So it we're relying on pharmaceuticals and not on trusting ourselves and working on ourselves and understanding ourselves and going into ourselves. It's a concept that people don't even address or even welcome to look into anymore, and it's horrifying.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, and I think that people who move slowly in life in the sense of not really understanding the mechanics behind the evolutionary process are, had I known as much as I know now, I would have hit the ground running, full speed ahead. I mean, I wouldn't have wasted any moments at all, because you can't just waste everything on speculation in a sense. And like a lot of people just don't read, they don't study, they don't learn, they don't expand. And what you were describing as philosophers, they don't explore the unknown beyond that with their psyche. I mean, that's a huge error in my opinion, because, if you just sit idle, you don't get anywhere. And then by the time you get out of this, like maybe you get older, 30, 40 years later, you look back and say, what did you do? At least we have a big benchmark where we've been and what we've accomplished. A lot of people haven't even gotten close to that.
Well, it's science and spirit together can do magical stuff. I mean, I'm not saying science shouldn't be there. It should be. But at the same time, a balance of the spiritual within the psyche gives you such power. It's unbelievable. And yet it is played down. It is, I loved what was it Einstein was talking, about when it got into the spiritual and consciousness and stuff like that. He said, that's the spooky stuff. And, it was kind of like, okay, he was
natural.
Yeah, he had a sense of humor. It can be spooky, but not scary spooky. Just you can't explain it, but it's there.
The invisible field. Yeah. It's quite visible when you're expanded. That's the thing.
Well, sure, but it just to me is we have come so far in some areas, and we have been so cut off in other areas that it's horrifying and it's frightening. And that's to get back to the to the riots and the mobs. I mean, these kids and these people who are are thinking they're doing something for humanity when they don't understand anything about the background of what's gone into all of this. Where did this in Israel? Where did this dispute come from? It isn't just what's happened in the last 5 years. Try last 500 years. last 1,000 years, what went on? And why is this happening? And, when you get into the spiritual stuff, what's happening with the churches and the religions? And, and I'm all for church and religion, but what's happening there? I mean, again, it's a power struggle.
It's corrupted. I think it's corrupted and polluted, and it's been changed dramatically. They can get as, compromised as anybody else. Just because they're religious doesn't mean they're pure, blind, the Christed ones. So I find that can be very contaminating on so many different levels. Then you're describing the collective and these people who are literally, there's nobody home, there's mass riots. Well, I see no difference between them and these leaders and the illusion of power. They're not thinking clearly. They're actually reckless as hell with a great amount of technologies that they don't care. They just want to go ahead and wipe everybody out, or they can't sit there and negotiate. They can't work together. They can't coexist. They can't compromise. They want to control everybody's thought forms and everybody here on this realm. If they can't control them, they want to destroy them. I mean, what kind of people are these that we're dealing with? Entities, apparently. There's just that's just not. It's not rational. It doesn't register, right?
I mean, that's a really good question. What kind of people are these? I mean, where did they come? I mean, look at George Soros. I mean, he's, I don't know where he came from, but
I think
my
he's
goodness.
laying low. Well, yeah, they all pop up to control, manipulate with propaganda and money. Just like the Schwab guy. I mean, we have a new agenda, whatever, and he fades away. But the thing is, they're still pulling. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of money to buy whatever they want here. It's the monopoly board where everybody who has the money to make the change can do it. I think honestly, I think that's what they're thinking on some level. But I'm not here to be part of the ride in the game. I'm not a slave. I don't think anybody here should be treated like one. So where do they get off thinking that this whole population has to surrender to what they want to establish on this realm? It's just not okay.
I long ago said, and I still mean it, I think we are individually pieces in a board game, and we don't know what the game is. And we're moved around, we're influenced, we go here, we go there. When I had Gary Wayne on, and he was talking about negative influence in different bloodlines and stuff like that, and he's back at the beginning and moving it forward. And I said to him, usually it used to be you knew who the good guys were and who the bad guys are, and I said, there aren't any good guys anymore. And he said, no, there aren't. Yeah. And it was frightening. So it's like, you think somebody is genuine, and then how do you know? How do you prove it? How do you throw your support behind them? And then suddenly they turn into, they have horns and a tail. I mean, what do you do? It's a world we have to live in. It's a world we are a part of. But how do you know, especially with politicians of both parties, how do you know which one is, first of all, going to be genuine, and second of all, stick to whatever they tell you to get them elected? A long time ago, Jeannie and I were, this goes way back, we were listening to politicians talk about what they would do if they were elected, and we made a list. Now, a lot of the promises that they make, they're good promises, but they don't have the power to do it. It has to go through, Congress and the Senate. And so they don't have the power to keep the promises they're making to get them elected. And we found a website that had gone up for, and I won't even mention who it was, but it listed the promises, and they took the website down because none of the promises had been kept, not a one of them. And
I believe it.
And so you're listening to, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. Well, those are great promises, and they're impressive, and both sides make great promises, but the reality after an election is very often not even close to what the promises were.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's kind of
That's
like,
true.
Is your vote worth anything? Yeah, not a lot, but it is worth something. And where you choose to put it, you're banking on somebody keeping their word, and it's they're empty promises. There have been politicians who actually kept their word. And I'm not going to get into politics here, but there are people that have been elected that kept every promise they made, but they're not in power now. So, I listen to Biden and he tells what he's done, and it isn't what he's done. I don't understand. If he doesn't.
It's what Trump did. A lot of the stuff he was quoting was stuff that Trump did. A lot of good stuff before he left office. And right down to the border being secure, he was trying to dispute that. And it's just like, what? It's ego. It's either ego or some part of like you were saying, dementia, something where they're just not coherent enough to even have a rational discussion about something. If they can't even identify what they've done while they've been in office, then there's something really wrong, right?
So this is the man, and I feel sorry for him. Because he did say that he had gone to the memorial and he'd spoken to dead soldiers who had died. And It was like, what? Are you now
we understand the occult, we understand the spirit realm, but okay. And then there's another side to that, is he being electronically interfaced with a communication system where it appears to be a ghost when it's actually a command program. Now, I know those technologies very well, and I'm sure Harris has had wind of them now, too. So, something to look at. She was really interested in the Havana program, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I get frustrated because I listen to all the promises, and they all sound good, and they're all great. We're going to lower this, we're going to lower that, we're going to, build whatever. The one thing you haven't heard about at all, Trump did start when he was in office, the space program.
Oh, Space Force, yeah.
Yeah, haven't heard a thing
about it. You don't hear
about
anything about Space Force. I wonder why. I wonder why nobody wants to talk about it.
Is it still there? It is.
Oh, sure it is. Yeah, I'm in the state. They're here. Yeah, they're around. They're doing their thing.
Wow.
But you know what? There's a lot of compartmentalization when it comes down to that. And, of course, advanced technologies. That's one division of the military, I think, that has access to the newer technologies. So we'll see where they go with it. But under this administration, they're a nightmare. The problem is this is not good. And from what I understand, the military does have the final word when it comes down to a president. I don't care what anybody says. I know they say, well, the president's the one responsible for setting the codes, this, that, and the other, and turning this, that, and the other, and giving the authorization. I've talked to too many people, and I'm telling you right now, it's not a coup, but the military has the final call on a lot of things. And I learned that from someone who worked at Area 51. And this guy was a legitimate person who worked there for a very long time. And he didn't tell me a lot of things, but he did tell me one thing. He said that we have technology that would scare the hell out of most people. And then he said another thing where if a president is if they take them on, say, Air Force One, or they're being transported somewhere, and they're out of the airspace, then they have the authority, the military has the authority to take care of everything and make the call. So, in other words, I don't think that Biden has the authority, and I don't think Harris has the authority. I think the military does. And you better, and I'm talking to listeners, you guys better hope we have the right people in the military to make these calls appropriately, because we've got crazy daisies running the show, or thinking they can run the show over there, and that's just not working. How much more do we have to suffer? And don't tell me that it's karma or dharma. Nobody has to suffer here. We don't have to go through this. And I think if anybody who has a rational, brain would know that. They would immediately know, and they'd call it, just like I can call it. But I don't have the authority to do it with them.
Well, yeah.
Too bad.
Lots of people. Yeah, it is. Ever thought of running for office?
No.
No, that's not a safe place to be
on
these
this
days.
planet.
No. Too many people get, strange as it seems, it feels to me as though people in power have no hesitation to take someone out.
Yeah.
And
they don't value life at all.
When that Supreme Court judge died a while back at the hunting lodge, can't remember his name now.
I remember, yeah.
And they embalmed him or cremated him almost immediately before his wife had a chance to even see his body.
That's weird.
Scalia.
Yeah, that's it.
I said he was murdered, and everybody said, "Oh no, he had a heart, whatever." And I said, "Oh no, he was killed. This is cover up. This is assassination." And I think it's happened in other cases as well. Maybe not as prominent, but people are definitely guilty of murder or of knocking somebody off. So
I think they specialize in that. Yeah,
and they do it well.
Well, that's what they're trained to do. I mean, isn't it? I don't know which alphabet agency it is, but I know a lot of them are trained assassins. I mean, that's what they do. Some of them are Manchurian oriented, where they're just mind controlled and won't even remember what they've done if they have the programming right. Yeah, I think it's a dangerous program in a sense of what they're capable of doing and how they're, there's no accountability when it comes down to taking people out that are what they consider to be a threat. So, but I'm seeing a lot of sanitization. What you were talking about, destroying evidence. And you're seeing that in the United States right now. There's a destruction of evidence right now, especially when it comes to classified data, like I was discussing, with what I call off-world technologies. There is a sanitization project going on. I guarantee there is. Demolition. And I wonder how much of this is in correlation to this potential war we're going to have with Russia. Is it really just about territories here, or is it about something much bigger? Technology is much bigger and more vast than they could possibly imagine. And how come, they always want to dominate space. Low Earth orbit's been pretty much weaponized. So that's another whole thing. That's a whole different orbit. Think about it. What they're trying to do here on a linear scale, going above our heads, the same thing when it comes down to demolition and also warfare. We've got that going on. Nobody wants to talk about that.
What do you
wonder about the weather patterns?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, the weather for sure has been weaponized. But what do you the bad guys have always been the Russians and the Chinese and the Koreans. I mean, the government's not the people, because there are people of those countries that are just, sweet, wonderful, and whatever. But
I agree.
The politics are so. I mean, Putin wants to recreate old Russia, and that means he's going to have to take over a lot of countries over there, and he's not beyond going in with tanks and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're semi-safe. I think we're semi-safe here, because Putin is more in getting his empire back together again, as opposed to trying to control a country who's across an ocean from him. And I think the same thing of China. But I do see China taking over Taiwan. It's happening. If I lived in Taiwan, I would have picked up and I would have moved. And I certainly would have not gone to the Philippines, because they are in danger. There is no doubt about it.
I agree. Yeah, I think so too.
And once they hit the Philippines, once they hit a Philippine island, I mean, I can see Biden saying, well, they can have one, because he said he would be okay with limited invasion in the Ukraine, and gave Putin permission to go into the Ukraine, as far as I was concerned. So, so I would think if Putin got up there and said, well, let him have one island, that would be it. They would take all of them. And
well, there's not such thing as one slice of cake. We're going to take the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like him saying, okay, you can have Florida, we'll just look the other way. And then, give them an inch, they take a mile. But like I said, I still think there are contracts being made. I think there's an agreement going on that nobody wants to talk about with these big superpowers, the illusion of superpower. I don't think it's just like they're rogue and they're just saying we're on this side and everybody's kind of polarized. I think they're working together for this agenda. I do. And honestly, if I was a big player, I wouldn't even look at any of these territories. I'd be looking at Antarctica, and I'd be looking at the moon and low Earth orbit insofar as that would be my domain. And I would say that once you control all that, everybody else is at your mercy. And I hate to say it like that because I'm not a dictator. But my point is that those are the strengths.
Well, I think what they're going to do is hopscotch across the Pacific. They're going to do Taiwan. Yeah. They're going to do the Philippines. They're going to do Easter Island. They're going to do the Illusions probably, and then they will hit Hawaii. So
I hope not. I have family there, so I hate to think they wake up to that. Well,
I don't think they're going to wake up to it.
Well, you know what I mean. I think that there's a huge potential for the Hawaiian Islands to be compromised. Absolutely, yeah.
And then I think it's the illusions that will come into play, because once they come into play, because they're right off the coast actually of Russia.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but of Russia, of China, no, Russia.
Oh.
I'm trying to figure out where, but I think where the danger really comes from is that side of us, as opposed to Europe and the Ukraine and all of that stuff. I think that the real danger is China and Russia on the other end. I don't think Russia is going to move on us, but I think China will.
Mhm. Oh, that's interesting. I think it would be opposite. I would say Russia's definitely going to move with their backup systems, and then China's there also. It seems to me like China really doesn't want to get involved in this to some degree because they have a lot of power already. So we'll see how it all rolls out. But my point is that I hate to be along for the ride as an observer. Even as an observer, I don't want to even be here for this, in a sense of it's just they can't play nice. But we have to make some changes for this world. It can't stay this way. It has to change. But I think it has to change within all of the governments. All the structures of the governments have to be redesigned, reconfigured. And whether they exist or don't exist is another scenario. Maybe we don't even need them anymore, to be honest. That's another scene also. They've been nuisances for a long time.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to redo everything. But
no, I mean, that's my point. That's what they want to do. They want to do a reset, but in my opinion, I think they're trying to just get rid of the mass populace and have their heyday, staking territories and, with their big clubs here and there. That's what it sounds like to me. But it doesn't make any sense because if I had the money they had, I'd be off planet by now.
Well, you need to have a place to go. Where would you go?
Well, I'd go off planet. I'd go into a different space-time configuration. By the way, that reminds me of my star map I'm working on because were there ways to get out of here and traverse the galactic highway? I know they know. You can't tell me NASA doesn't know what I know in a sense of how I know that we are in the wrong space-time and that there are capabilities we have beyond rockets that we can traverse and they're not talking about. Maybe that's all part of this equation in a sense of why they're having a potential war like this, They want to play with their toys and, without anybody being here, no observers, no witnesses. Has anybody ever thought of that? When you think about all these anomalies with the UFOs and the reverse engineer stuff, they've always had witnesses. People would always notice them. I think they're at the point where they don't want people witnessing these things anymore. Really do.
Well,
and a lot of it has to do with your evolution. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think you're right because I think when they did Operation High Jump with Admiral Byrd, they had flying saucers coming out of the water that were not extraterrestrial. They were terrestrial, and they knocked the crap out of them and sent them back home with their tail between their legs. So we've had, that technology has been available, and that was, I can't remember what year it was, but it was in the 40s, I think. And so it's kind of like it's been there. I mean, those saucers in the Arctic underground. I think that what we see in the sky now, as far as UFOs, are unidentified flying objects, but they are not extraterrestrial. They're probably mostly ours, and if they are extraterrestrial, they're just they're shuttles. They're not big spaceships.
Like drones almost.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
drones.
and that's another aspect of it. Yeah, I look at the off-world intelligence networks and systems as sentient machine intelligence. So, in my opinion, we've had that all along. We have self-replicating technology that has beyond structures off-planet, which is, that to me is a true benchmark. So that's what I look at as the technology, because it's not about transhumanism. It's about what we're designed to do to interface with it, but also the fact that it's there and it's real. And I think that's why they are so intimidated, and they've mastered their form of electronic warfare and electromagnetic warfare, is to fight all this and also fight beings like us who are able to interface with it. So, it's interesting, and I can only go by where I've been, because I know, what I can do, and I know what they've been able to do to try to run an interference. But I can tell you, man, I think the solution to the equation would be past Antarctica to the jump points. And I know you've done remote viewing over there. I just find that the solution to the equation is that, in a sense.
There are jump points at Antarctica, definitely. No question. I mean, there are portals there. And are you equating portals with jump places?
I am. Yeah, I am to some of them, and then there's a massive jump point where it's like from step 1 to step 2, you're already beyond the space-time configuration. You're in a whole different space-time. And I know that's a way to get out of here. So I'm sure they know too. And this is why nobody really gets over there, in a sense of what we're able to do as a society or a civilization. I mean, some people get to go on little tours around Antarctica, but they don't get to go to the real places that we need to be at in order to calibrate technology, right? And also be able to work with the field there. I think that's why I always was amazed by Musk. It's like, why is he using these rockets? Why isn't he looking at these areas that I'm looking at? I never understood that about him. But he's working with the Defense Department.
Yeah. But, when you look at it all, why were all the politicians going to Antarctica? I mean, there were tons of politicians a while back that all had to go to Antarctica. And you can't tell me they just were cruising around looking at the icebergs and yada, yada, yada. They were there for a reason. Because,
agreed.
Trust me.
And it pisses me off, too, because that's not their ancestry. That's not their cosmic ancestry, let's put it that way. But it's also secure location for communication also, in my opinion. So that's another reason. What's that guy, Kerry? The one who went out there first. He's another one that, he's a scarecrow in the wood. He's somebody I keep an eye on, actually. Because I think he's had a lot to do with some of the stuff that's happened in the years with technology, if you ask me. Not necessarily to me. I'm just saying. I think there's something about him that stands out with his access to data.
Could be.
Yeah.
I just know Antarctica. I just, the more I try to look at it, the more I get blocked right, left, up, and down. Same thing with Mary Joyce. She does a ton of she uses Google Earth,
Google Earth,
Mars, and Google Moon. And a while back, she had even spotted a village or town, a village that was coming out of the ice, so to speak, because it was melting. And she talked about it, and she gave the latitude and longitude. And when I went on it, it had been blurred out. So the government just doesn't want any of this information out there. I don't understand why.
Well, it's power. It's, information technology based on what they can do to weaponize. Of course, they don't want the mass collective to have access to the information under the guise of national security. But it's our cosmic legacy, if you ask me. So, it's not going to stop me. I'm going to finish the star map, and I'm not using a software program. People like Bill Brown, for example, he'll use a software program to come up with some of this stuff, and I refuse to. I want to do this myself, where I'm just going to write and draw the map myself. But the idea behind that is, how do you get it in print? It's going to be a little more challenging to transpose it onto paper. But, I don't want to work with these programs that you can just download, like the AI program that they've created. You say something and it creates something for you. Oh, that's great. How about I put my own energy and psyche into the remote access and viewing, and create a map of my own that I'm familiar with versus what they want to do, right?
Oh yeah, I mean when we did the remote viewing in Antarctica, it was amazing. I mean, it was.
And I'm sure
amazing.
it's on point too. That's another thing. Not only is it amazing, Barbara. Those were powerful, and I was able to participate with quite a few of those. I thought they were fabulous.
Well,
Egypt one too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, but the Antarctic one absolutely blew me away because the tunnels, there were no lights, but the walls glowed, and it was warm. And when we went through these tunnels, we came into a huge area that had it was circular, and there were it was like it looked like they were kind of doors, but they weren't doors around the periphery of it, and they had different symbols on them, and it was almost as though somebody would go and put their hand on it and go through it, and it was kind of like in Harry Potter, when they went to the train station, they went right through the pillar and they were able to go. Well,
right.
That's what it was like. They put their hand on the wall and then they just went right through it, kind of like a Stargate. And there were fountains and there was greenery there, and it was almost like a Grand Central Station. But what I found was, when we saw people, they were people. They were not, little green blobs, and they were people. Maybe taller, maybe thinner, maybe, but no, nothing that would scare you. And
right,
I think
exactly.
I think what they've done to us is make us afraid of extraterrestrials because they're so weird and they're frightening and scary, but they're not. And
that's a psychological warfare. That's the hive collective, and I still think a lot of it's psychotronic. I mean, I would dispute some of the people who have, like Whitley Strieber comes to mind, an example of him. Just that he mentioned the book cover and how it affected people psychologically. I think that imagery is psychotronic. I think that some of the grays and the programs associated with that is a technology bleed through. I think it's to imprint people psychologically, to put blocks on them from progression into, different cosmic design and space-time. So my work that I've done has never shown me those things. I've always known that we are the visitors. They look like us, like what you were describing. And some may be more refined and iridescent, or maybe more taller or brighter in the shields, in the field, by the energetics. But literally the DNA sequencing is the same. Yeah, absolutely.
And
so
I think,
that's just my dispute.
And so it boggles my mind. Are you familiar with the Dropa stones?
I think you mentioned those to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they sing? Is that the one that sings?
No. The Dropa stones. A Chinese archaeologist went into a cave at one point, and he found these circular stones. And confirmation. And they almost look like records. And he brought a whole bunch of them back, and they were stones, and just kind of stones, put them in the museum. But when somebody really started to investigate them, in the grooves were glyphs that were finally interpreted, and it was the story of a race of people whose ship landed on the planet, and it was destroyed, and there was just no way they were going to have to live and be indigenous to the area that they were in. And there were a lot of these stones, and it sounds like a good story, right? Well, in that area in China, it's between China and Tibet, there is a tribe of people called the Dropa. They are small. They are about 3 feet high, and the tribe is still there. They're called the Dropa, and they are ancestors of that ship.
That's very interesting. Is there a book on that or no?
I think there are articles on it for sure.
Check it out. And look at
DROPA, I think it was 18 something that he discovered them, and they actually did put them on a record player, and they did emit a signal of some sort. So
that's very interesting.
The Dropa stones are, and you Google the Dropa tribe. They're there, and they have I believe they have unusual eye color or something. They're because they're so small. They didn't exactly marry into the tribes that were around them, so they stayed pretty culturally pure, but they're still there. So it's beautiful. And so I think that the alien stuff that Hollywood has put out is just for the birds.
I think it's a distraction once again. Yeah, psychologically speaking, and it's kind of like you have a hive collective, like we were starting off talking about, whether they're violent or whether they're just interested in something like the UFO scene, and then everybody starts to create something that say somebody gets hit with a program that's psychotronically related, then all of a sudden that kind of bleeds through to other people's psyche. They start looking for a correlation and they create one themselves. I'm not saying that's happening all the time, but I'm thinking a lot of it is designed by that in a sense. I think that we have real interface with off-world beings, and then there's the other stuff that goes on. But I think there's so much to explore, Barbara, and I get frustrated with these people because I don't want to be stopped by anybody. I want to go full speed ahead. I don't care what age I am in the illusion of. I just want to keep navigating quickly and acquire as much data and information and analysis as I can. And I find that this is so annoying to see all this distraction here by pettiness, and it's usually about linear control. It's so stupid. Just infuriating. What if everybody was switched on to such a high level that they could share their collective of intellect? We would have a phenomenal species of people here. They don't even want to turn that key. They don't want to look that way. It doesn't make any sense.
But we're so ill-equipped on purpose. They don't let us be equipped consciously. Some of us, have said the hell with it, and have gone ahead and worked on consciousness expansion and understanding and stuff like that. But for the most part, the general public is being dumbed down and dumbed down and dumbed down. I mean,
yep, exactly.
It's frightening. And one of my neighbors, her son was in, I think, 6th grade, and the teacher was saying that the mass extinction of the Jews didn't take place in World War II. It was all a story. And, oh, my God.
They're rewriting everything. I mean, I've heard people dispute that a lot, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people died. A lot of Jews died. And a lot of other people died, too. So,
Well, the gypsies and the handicapped were definitely killed. I mean, I've seen films of it.
I mean, everybody did. I mean, it wasn't just the Jews, too. It was other people, other areas, too. But I still think, yeah. There's definitely a rewrite when it comes down to all that. Well, just like you were, discussing, they want to wipe out American history, too, under the guise of racism or whatever the hell they want to do. But the bottom line is you need to look at the benchmarks and the time capsules of data that's accurate, not the one that's been kind of rewritten to accommodate a mass collective, but literally what was really happening on the timeline. And if you erase all that, I think that's foolish. You can transmute it out chemically, but I think to just erase it and not give anyone the opportunity to know the truth, which is what they do with covert technology, which is what they do with off-world intelligence. I think that's a disservice on a galactic scale. Okay, nobody has the right to do that, in my opinion. If they don't want to know, they don't need to know, but it should be their choice, their opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's sort of like man's inhumanity to man. I mean, that old saying that history is written by the victors, and the fact that people aren't aware of how brutal and cruel we have been. I mean, you go back and biblical times, they wiped out towns, they burned towns, they wiped out cultures. And somebody objecting there?
No, I think he might see a moose outside, so sorry. I don't know, he's looking out the window. He's right next to me. No, I agree with you on that. I mean, that's what I mean by this potential to be so violent and so abusive and so narcissistic and evil. To me, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, even if you hate your enemy, if you're in the battlefield, you know, in my opinion, you don't sit there and torture people. I just don't believe in torture. I just don't. If you have to really take somebody down, you just do it as gracefully as possible. But, I mean, that's a last resort, obviously. But I can never understand that, the violence associated with the people. And they get some kind of a satisfaction out of harming, even psychologically. I could never understand that.
Well, you know, those are the kind of people that you know, that should be brainwashed. But even so, yeah, I don't believe in brainwashing. I think everybody is retrievable, but the fact is they're not trying to retrieve people or bring them back into society. Everybody's sending them to the southern border now, but you know, it's horrifying that we have the capability to heal people or to bring people back into resonance with society, and we're not doing it. And then of course you've got people who are, you know, losing it, so to speak. And I know my mom had dementia, and it got to the point where I was taking care of her body. She wasn't there anymore. And, you know, those things do happen. But, and that, you know, dementia, Alzheimer's, look at what happened to Reagan. He had Alzheimer's, I believe. And for part of the time he was in the White House. So, you know, the White House has seen people who was it Cleveland or Wilson? I forget which, who had the stroke and his wife took over for almost 6 months. The presidency. I mean, our government has had strange things happen with it. So this is par for the course. But how we deal with it is a whole nother thing. In order for Article 25 to be enacted, the president's cabinet has to instate it, and they're not about to. So,
well, I don't think they're going to have a choice. I'll tell you what, it was obvious during that debate he's in trouble. So something's going to have to happen.
Like I said, I don't like him as a person, but I feel sorry for him as a human being because he is being manipulated, and that's not fair. That's not fair to anybody.
Well, they're manipulators. They use everybody, though. There's always a handler to somebody who's high profile. There's always somebody there to control the scene to some degree. I think his wife's a handler to some degree when it comes down to that. When you're talking about Alzheimer's, I mean, sometimes memory loss can be induced by electronic warfare and what we call digital hosts or electronic hosts. In other words, you know, I can tell you where I've been with covert warfare to such a degree, but I can say that if the spirit gets compromised or it doesn't have a place to go, there's this electronic program that can run. And it seems to me like when people start to leave this realm spiritually, like their spirit body starts to move on, there's an electronic or some kind of a digital program that runs as a kind of like a backup system that's autopilot. And I'm not saying that's dementia, but I would say that it's probably connected to something like that there's something there, but it's not him. And whether it's done through synthetic programming or it's just something organic, that's what it looks like to me. That the spirit essence is gone in him. What's left is a program. And, you know, I think a lot of people have those. And if I'm not mistaken, when a lot of older people transfer out, I think they see a lot of that in the sense that people don't recognize the parent anymore. They don't recognize the energetics, the frequency or the signature associated with the person who's leaving, who's dying, because they've already gone. And what's left is just what you were describing, a vessel with a program.
And lots of times with dementia, Alzheimer's, and people who are close to crossing over, I know that my friend Jeannie's mother has dementia, and she tells everybody that she's got a dog with her, and there's nobody can see the dog.
Interesting.
But there is definitely a dog there, and she does see people that have passed over, and talks to them and about them. And you know, Jean said to me, "Is she really seeing those people?" I said, "I think she's seeing those people. I think that she is. She's, you know, but her mother is of that generation that is so hardy that she's going to be here a long time.
Right. Well, they make a choice when they want to bow out. I think they really do in the end. I think, but they get kind of in between the realms. They get in between different dimensions, and it sounds like she is accessing another parallel dimension, very, very close proximity, even maybe an upper astral plane or something. I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't put this out in a negative fashion, but I think Biden's on his way out. I think his life force is going to eventually leave. So it's just by his symptoms, you know.
Yeah, I would agree with you. But you never know. Yeah. I don't believe we pass until we have fulfilled whatever contract we had when we came in. So, you know, there's something we're here to achieve and do. Once we've done it, we go. And, you know, we write another contract and get on with another existence in another place and time. So it does make you wonder, you know, what could the purpose be that has him so infirm and you know, reading speeches and you know, he's great if he has a teleprompter, but without a teleprompter, he was lost. He was totally lost.
I don't think he has good counsel either. I agree with you. But the thing is, he doesn't have people you can, like us, to talk to, right? He has his wife. He has controllers and handlers. But who's giving him the reality check? Who's really talking to him the way he needs to be talked to about what's happening here in this country and how negligent he's been, even though he thinks he's doing the right thing? I think, honestly, he believes he's doing the right thing. And you can see that he doesn't see that anything's wrong. And I'm thinking that people are either in denial or there's something wrong with you. And Harris is the same way. She never saw a problem at the border. She was in denial of it, but she knew damn well it was putting America in jeopardy. So what the hell is wrong with them? But I think he's a different one. I think you're right. I think he's being handled and controlled to such a degree he's almost disoriented. So that's what I saw in him. I saw somebody who was very unstable when I looked at that. That's the the other night.
He appeared gray. His aura was gray. And that to me is signifying someone who is not well, for sure.
Right.
So, you know, I think that I'm sad for him. I really feel so bad for him. And again, I don't like him. I don't like what he's done with his life, with his career, with his utilization of selling his nearness to the, you know, he's become a very, very wealthy man through corruption. But and that will never be addressed because of the fact that he's so far gone.
Yeah, well, they've all gotten rich over there. Every one of those people who work for Congress or Senate or anyplace else, they come out with an awful lot of money in their pocket.
They do, and you know, gifts and all sorts of stuff. You know, I'm just very glad that I'm not rich and that I don't have to worry about losing money because I don't have any. So, you know, I have enough to get by on, but I'm not, you know, I'm not the kind of person that can give money to organizations or anything. I give to, you know, Wounded Warriors and Tunnel to Towers and ASPCA, but you know, I'm at the very right place. I'm just perfect right now. And
good.
Yeah. But when you look at somebody like him who is clearly being manipulated and used, it is scary. And you know, you sit back and you think, okay, where are we going and how are we getting there? And I guess it's a trip where nobody really knows. We're just going to be surprised when we arrive at wherever we're going to arrive. But the message here today is that if things seem bleak, you can change them. Your perception can change everything. All you have to do is use creativity to sort of pull the energy in a very positive way. Walk barefoot on the ground. You know, get more in touch with the Earth Mother. You don't have to spend tons of money to do any of this stuff. And I think that's where people
change the fabric. Yeah, I agree. Your psyche can change the fabric and the reality. I mean, there's dream boards you can create. There's all kinds of things you can do to channel and direct the flow. But I still think it's the manifestation aspect is connected to frequency. So it can only manifest to some degree depending on the field you're working in, energetically speaking. That's just been my own impression. But yeah, that's creativity is a divine spark. It's always been a divine spark.
And it seems to be at the very bottom of everybody's checklist these days.
Yeah, they're all preoccupied. They're all looking at their iPhones and, checking everything. Their brainwaves are already entrained with the iPhone. I mean, I have a phone too. I get it. And I've been through other stuff, but I still understand when to power off, right?
Right. And I think that's, we have become slaves. And, who was it? Sitchin said that, the aliens, bred us so that we would be slaves for them. Well, forget aliens. We are slaves. We're slaves to our cell phones and our credit cards. And
that's all done by man. Okay?
Yeah.
So not an extraterrestrial. No extraterrestrial designed all that. That's completely mankind.
And that's where everybody is locked in, unfortunately. I don't know that we're going to see any massive turnaround, but I hope over the next couple of months especially that people will kind of back off and take a look at what they have in their lives, the wonderful things, their families, and to hit their creativity hard, because that will make the next couple of months flow so much easier for all of us. Until the first of the year, It's going to be difficult for everyone. And, it's kind of like, okay, let's be creative about, what we can eat. I know my neighbor and I, every now we buy something and we share it so that we share our dinner so that, it's easier. There are so many ways that we can make this experience not fun, but certainly easier for everybody involved. And, maybe become better neighbors with our neighbors and stuff. I mean, I'm beginning to think that maybe having once a week or so a gathering where everybody brings a dish and we all eat together would be a good idea to share. It's just, I think this can be utilized in a positive way if we just take our time and figure out ways to do it.
That's well said. I agree. That's a step into a good direction. No doubt about that. This has been a great show.
Yeah, this is, always you are such a wonderful person to bounce things off of and to be bounced off of from.
Well, likewise. Yeah, I enjoy our communication always. It's fun. It's a deep thought.
When is your next book coming out?
I don't know. I tell you what, I'm so behind. I do have to get the map finished. That's my next one. It's a map. It's just me sitting down and actually working it from A to Z. But that's really it. And I don't even know if people want to look at it or not. I do know that I can use it for traversing, and what I'd like to do is a companion to it to show people what this is about and how you traverse and calibrate to the field, this, that, and the other. So it's really just a highway to the cosmos in the sense of a different space-time configuration and how we can traverse. Sounds a little complex, and I can get into other levels of it too. And we have ley lines and portals here and the illusion of and frequency bands here on this realm. But when you start looking into the cosmos, it's a fabric. It's literally a fabric. And we have the same kind of jump points and access points and portals and stargates just like what we have here. And all you do is, sometimes you can do an overlay, but if you're working in a different space-time, it's a different frequency band. Anyways, it's complex, but I'm going to finish it, Barbara. It's on my list of finishing up. So I can't give you a deadline, but I'm going to try and get it done by the end of the year.
Well, that's a short period of time. I admire that. I know that once I can get myself straight on my electronic stuff, I do want to jump back into doing writing for at least another book. And, it's going to be interesting. What I'm playing with is 101 questions, spiritual questions. And I've got a whole list of them, and it's just a matter of sitting down and really working on them and getting them out there and putting it together and then getting it published. So,
I can't wait. That'll be fun. And congratulations again on your cards. and your beautiful. I just love the program, the little app you have. So all the good stuff associated with that.
I'm excited about that too.
Cool.
It's it's a different level of the population I'm aiming at, and I haven't quite made my foothold yet, but I'll get there. You want to give people your radio shows and where they can find you? Sure.
You can find me over at Revolution.Radio Studio A on Friday night. Well, Friday. Hyperspace Night Files at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Raven Star's Witching Hour is Saturday. Same station and network. And that's 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific. My books are on Amazon.com. And my website's nightshadowanomalydetectives.com or .net. So I'm out there, hidden in plain sight.
Indeed you are. So it's your turn next time to pick the topic. So,
oh no.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll come up with something.
we've had some very good shows. So
we have.
So I guess we're gonna say good night, and I will talk at you soon. And thank you so much. You're always such a pleasure to shove things back and forth with.
Well, likewise. Thank you, Barbara. It's been wonderful. And thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Good night now, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. And look for us at the end of the month. We will be back then. Good night.